Is there anybody out there?
The lights in the night sky. Sky watchers. We're watching. We're watching.
Did you see that?
Here on EngageLife.fm.
And welcome, everybody. This is your host, Debra Jayne East, and we're watching the North Carolina skies and skies all over the world. And I would like to introduce you tonight to a very special guest. He is from all over the world. He's over in a place called Felixstowe, which is in the eastern part of England. His name is Derik Savory, and he lives not far from Rendlesham Forest. And Derik witnessed some things for himself in December of 1980, and he never realized later that it was connected to the Rendlesham Forest incident, which was Britain's Roswell. Welcome, Derik. How are you today?
Hello there. Fine, thank you. Hope you can understand the accent okay.
Oh, yeah, I can understand you real good. I just hope you can understand mine.
No problem. No problem.
Could you tell us a little bit about your background, Derik?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, as far as UFO stuff is concerned, in 1980, I witnessed a big ball of fire coming out of the sky late at night, along with many other people, I might add. And I was driving along the car at the time, and we see this big ball of fire coming down, and then it seemed to change direction and headed towards Rendlesham way. Well, we put crikey, you know, obviously, what is it? Loads and loads of people say it. I rang the newspaper the next day. They didn't want to talk to me. I rang them the day after, and they said they'd been inundated with calls, and they just said it was a meteorite or it was an old satellite falling out of the sky. But it didn't just fall out of the sky. It changed direction. And
did you notice what color it was?
They wouldn't. They said it was either a satellite falling out of the sky, or a big ball of, or like a meteorite. But this wasn't neither of those things because it changed direction.
Yeah,
and
that's
what started me off.
Yeah, that makes it different. Did you notice any kind of sound or anything when you experienced it?
No, nothing.
Or color?
It was just a big ball of fire, red fire. And that's what started me off. And a few years after that, I joined a UFO group, and then we heard about the Rendlesham incident. And now I live near Rendlesham, and the main investigator, or main investigators who investigated the Rendlesham incident are friends of mine, and we now go to the forest together. But interestingly, in 1980, that was the main publicised events. It was over 3 nights, basically. The 3 publicised events over 3 nights. You've got Penistone, Burroughs, and Colonel Holt's, which were the first 2 nights. Then you've got Larry Warren's event, which was the 3rd night. But there was many other nights. And also, one of the investigators, Brenda Butler, and her friend Dot Street, were investigating UFOs a full year before that on base. They'd had reports of UFOs before the main event.
Yes, I've heard that said before, that there were events before Rendlesham and afterwards, but you haven't really heard a whole lot about those events.
No, and also you won't hear about all the landing sites either. I think I know all the different landing sites because we go there every week, maybe. For instance, Penistone and Burroughs site, where they say they had their encounter, the trees are actually deformed.
The trees at the landing site are deformed? Are there any other things you noticed about the areas around?
Not now, because in 1987 we had a big storm here and a lot of the forest was damaged. Those trees were still standing actually, but they've grown up. But they're pine trees, but where that particular area is, the pine trees are actually grown into 2 pieces, are all deformed. I'm not even sure if Jim Penistone and John Burroughs know that, but that is fact. They are deformed.
And I know they did check for radioactivity back then, and I do believe they said that some of the sites had some radioactivity.
They do. I can confirm that. Then you have Holt site. That's quite basic. I wouldn't say that's anything exciting. There's a marker there, a little display thing explaining to people, visitors, where it is. But then you've got Larry Warren's site, which is on a field, which is called Capel Green, which is on the edge of the forest. And they're the same thing again. They had trouble growing stuff there for a few years. But the stuff you don't hear about are the other landing sites. Now, some of my friends who investigated found what we call Area 1 landing site, which is the other side of the forest. And when Jim Penniston and John Burroughs and Colonel Holt and those were over here, they were showing the pictures, and they were quite shocked to think that we'd found it. Well, I didn't find it personally, but a fellow investigator found it. Now, this site that had radiation readings, and nothing has grown there for 33 years.
Gosh.
When the investigators first found it, when they approached the military, the first thing the military done was cut the trees down to try and hide the evidence, and literally plough that particular area and replant stuff around it. Nothing grew on the actual area, but round the circle area, they managed to grow loads of trees and undergrowth. But the actual site.
So you say it's the military? You think it's the military that cut down the trees to hide the fact?
As soon as it was pointed out, they tried to hide the area. That I can tell you. But as well as that, also in 1980, which no one seems to know about, but there was a landing in a school just outside Rendlesham, in Woodbridge, the main town Woodbridge. There was a school there. And obviously
please tell us about that. I've not heard anything about that incident.
Well, basically what happened, obviously the schools were closed at the Christmas period, and some kids were playing, and they see a load of soldiers and basically UFO in the playing field, because the kids live nearby. So the kids went running home and said to their parents that they're filming a Doctor Who program in our field. That's what the kids thought, it's a Doctor Who program, but it wasn't. Well, immediately they were hushed up, the school was closed, and it was bulldozed down. Right? Actually, not
the whole school?
Hadn't been there that long. The whole school was knocked down. The kids were never allowed back anywhere near it. The school was closed down. The place was bulldozed. The actual area where the craft landed was fenced off. And all these years later, there's an old people's home where the school stood, but the actual playing field is still roped off. But to get to you can't actually get the playing field very easily now, because the way they've built this nursing home, old people's home, they've got the old people's home, then a garden, then you've got this field, which is totally roped off. Nothing grows there, or hasn't for 30 odd years, same as the other side.
Wow.
But that is kept secret. That's what, you won't hear that from anybody. What I'm telling you is spot on true. The main investigator is a lady by the name of Brenda Butler. She is the top girl. She's been investigating UFOs for, 30, 40 years.
And I believe she wrote a book called Sky Crash, didn't she?
Yes, she did. She wrote Sky Crash, and the latest one she wrote along with Philip Kinsella is Sky Crash throughout the ages. And also she contributed to John Hanson's books, Haunted Skies. In actual fact, I'm in one of those, actually. I'm in Haunted Skies 8, actually. There's a picture of me in that.
Oh, wow, that's great.
So, but the information that she's dug up, you would not believe. And when they were investigating on base, I mean, they're quite friendly with Colonel Holt now, and Penniston and Burroughs and Larry Warren, everyone knows her. She really is top girl. What she doesn't know isn't worth knowing as far as the forest is concerned.
I'm sure she's had her work cut out for her, because I found out, in doing this show, that sometimes it's really hard to get people to talk about these things. Why do you think that is? Well,
in case of the Rendlesham, people were brought off, threatened. I mean, on the night, one of the nights, for instance, member of public, his mate was driving past the forest, see a craft or something in the sky, rang his mate in Ipswich, who flew out in his car, drove up near Eastgate and was taking some pictures. The military took the camera off him and arrested him.
Oh, no!
That was British soil, that is. That's not the airbase, that's beside the airbase. All these things happen on British soil, but the US were carrying their weapons. They'll probably deny it, but they were. It's not a problem. I mean, the 81st, who were on the gate, that's the 81st that were based there, and the 67th. The 81st were doing their job. They thought a plane had crashed. That's the bottom line
Yes.
of it. They went out there, they done their job, they done a good job. It's affected these guys so many you wouldn't believe. There's many that won't speak on radio or on TV, but I'm friends with on Facebook.
And you know, I don't care if anybody agrees with me or not, but I do believe that all those guys are heroes, and it's time that they got treated as such because they risked their life. And a lot of them have been affected health-wise from their sighting, so it's really terrible.
Like John Burroughs, for instance, they withheld his medical records. I mean, he's just had a heart operation, John Burroughs, and he couldn't get his medical records for that period of time. They've all been affected. Everybody on the base there was affected, I think. I mean, there's a lot of people that I've spoken to that were on the base at the time. One guy was on duty, for instance. You never hear about this guy. His name's Joseph. I won't say the rest of his name. He was on duty that night. He was on another part of the base, and he said to me, he said, the coming over the radio, it was a UFO. He said, I swear to God, it was a UFO. He said, and there might have been more than one. We think there was 3 of them. We think there was 3 UFOs that night.
You know, I myself have witnessed a UFO, and you know when you see one, it's just evokes a feeling inside of you, an excitement, and yet you're also a little scared. Well,
besides UFO, in 2012, I took my brother and son, who don't live there, his son doesn't live far away. My brother lives at the other side of the country. He came to stay with me, and he wanted to see one of the landing sites. He's only down for a couple of days, so 7:30 in the evening, it was dark and it was a full moon. It was October the 1st, this was. Me and my brother and my son, we've gone down the forest, and we had little torches, walked up track 12, which is, they've moved the sign by the way. They've another little trick the military done. It was called track 12, now they've changed the number to track 8. It's to put people off where to go. Alright. We're walking up the track towards Larry Warren's landing site, and we had a full-on encounter with ETs. They just appeared from nowhere. There was 3 of us there.
ETs?
We all see the same thing. Well, I'll say ETs. I don't know how best to describe them, but to our left was probably about 8 or 10 shadow soldiers, right? To our right,
shadow soldiers.
Yeah, and to our right.
What do you mean by that, Derek?
They were shadows, but they were holograms, but they were soldiers. And to our right was these little monks. Now, we've seen the monks and the shadows before. Since then, I've seen them a few times. But basically, this night was a massive night. There was, I think, about 4 or 5 of these little monks. They're about 5 foot tall. They look like monks, basically. I think they're actually ETs now, but at the time, we thought they were monks. And a giant. Sounds ridiculous, but I'm not lying to you. A giant. This giant must have been well over 10 foot tall, and it was walking towards us. Obviously, we'd walked into something that night. We didn't see a UFO. We weren't expecting to see anything, to be honest. We hadn't got no cameras with us or nothing. And this giant walked towards us, and we stood there. The temperature dropped, and we froze. At that point, we should have run. We should have legged it, but I don't know. We felt protected. And then my brother said, "Del, I can't breathe. I can't breathe." So I said, "Come on, let's just back up." And then as we backed up a bit, and the temperature rose a little bit. Still surrounded by all these things. And my son kept saying, Dad, the giant's coming. And this giant was coming towards us. So we decided the best thing was we back off and leave the track, which we did. So we backed off, and we was literally escorted out that part of the forest by these entities. We got to the road, walked up the road to the car, opened the car door, stood there having a cigarette, shaking, and my brother